अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। चिन्मयं व्यापि यत्सर्वं त्रैलोक्यं सचराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वक्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। भवानी शङ्करौ वन्दे श्रद्धा विश्वासरूपिणौ याभ्यां विना न पश्यन्ति सिद्धा स्वान्तस्थमीश्वरं सिद्धा स्वान्तस्थम् ईश्वरम्। Harihi Om. I'll have the Namasmarana. Sanmaya Chinmaya Shankara Shankara Sanmaya Chinmaya Shankara Shankara Sada Anandamaya Shankara Shankara Sada Anandamaya Shankara Shankara Vidya Vijnanamaya Shankara Shankara ವಿದ್ಯಾ ವಿಜ್ಞಾನಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ಜ್ಞಾನ ಪ್ರಕಾಶಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ಜ್ಞಾನ ಪ್ರಕಾಶಮಯ ಶಂಕರ 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 ಶಿವ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರ ಶಿವ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರ ಶಂಕರ 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 ಶಿವ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರ ಶಿವ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ಸನ್ಮಯ ಚಿನ್ಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ಸದಾ ಆನಂದಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ರೂಪ ಅರೂಪಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ರೂಪ ಅರೂಪಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ಸಗುಣ ನಿರ್ಗುಣಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ಸಗುಣ ನಿರ್ಗುಣಮಯ ಶಂಕರ 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 ಶಿವ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರ ಶಿವ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ದ್ವೈತ ಅದ್ವೈತಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ದ್ವೈತ ಅದ್ವೈತಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ಬಿಂಬ ಪ್ರತಿಬಿಂಬಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ಬಿಂಬ ಪ್ರತಿಬಿಂಬಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ಏಕ ಅನೇಕಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ಏಕ ಅನೇಕಮಯ ಶಂಕರ 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 ಶಿವ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರ ಶಿವ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ದ್ವೈತ ಅದ್ವೈತಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ಬಿಂಬ ಪ್ರತಿಬಿಂಬಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ಏಕ ಅನೇಕಮಯ ಶಂಕರ 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 ಶಿವ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರ ಶಿವ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರ ಶಂಕರ 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 ಶಿವ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರ ಶಿವ ಪರಮೇಶ್ವರ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ಸನ್ಮಯ ಚಿನ್ಮಯ ಶಂಕರ ಶಂಕರ ಸದಾ ಆನಂದಮಯ ಶಂಕರ 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 Shankara Shankara. Harihi Om. Thrill means a state of excitement or a feeling of excitement or pleasure. It is a beautiful state or a strong feeling of excitement or pleasure. Thrill means entranced with bliss. Entranced meaning thrown into the state of ecstasy. That is a sudden jump into the state of ecstasy. Till then it was normal, and then taken over by ecstatic feeling, ecstatic experience. It's a state. Trance is connected with the word entrance. Trance means samadhi. Samadhi means thrilled with joy. There is nothing else in that state but being thrilled with joy. As we have seen yesterday, in our life also, in our day-to-day living also, there are certain experiences which we get in life, which we term as thrilling moments. We have experienced such things often in life. But here, it is a state. As long as we are in that state, or when we remain in that state, if we have to put it in the terms of experience, then it is thrilled, being thrilled with joy. Nothing else except joy. In our worldly experiences, thrill is there, and afterwards, that is lost, that is gone. And other experiences are also there. But as long as one remains in this state, or if one understands that alone is the nature later on, after getting into this, what is called as a state, so long there will be the thrill, the experience of thrill or thrilling joy. In prayer and worship, in seva or service, in contemplation or meditation, we come to experience moments of quietness, peacefulness, silence, calmness, motionlessness, movementlessness. Sometimes when we go deep into these things, we do experience And whenever we experience such things, the mind is still. There is stillness in the mind of the mind. So still or stillness means silent, motionless, calm, quiet, and peaceful. And still also has another meaning. That means in an increasing degree. That's a beautiful meaning it is. Another beautiful meaning of still. In an increasing degree. That quietude, that peacefulness, that calmness, that motionlessness is in an increasing degree. And also there is this thrill of joy. Stillness, and then beyond stillness, the thrill. In an increasing degree when we go into the stillness. In the level or realm of mind, there are thrilling experiences. But when it goes into a state of stillness, calm, quiet, peacefulness, there is in-depth silence. And then in those moments, the mind will be just still, meaning the rush and run or any other verbalization or conceptualization of the mind are not there. In other words, the mind as a moving thing is not there. Unmoving stillness is there. But if at all there is any movement, there is no horizontal movement. There is a deep inward movement, which in other words is called as upward vertical movement. And when we understand about our true nature, which is beyond the mind, and transcend the mind and get into our true nature, that thrill, that joy which we experience is a thrill beyond stillness. In our course of these few days of discourses, we will also try to see in depth of these samadhis, how truly we can intellectually grasp something about the thrill beyond the stillness. We have an idea now, we will proceed into those things at the right time, more deeply. Now, let us look into the fundamental principles of Advaita, which is so beautiful. And fundamental principles are made very simple for us to understand by the great masters who have seen it in their experience, in their oneness with their true and highest nature, and they wanted in their compassionate gracefulness to communicate the same to us. So they made it very simple. Their whole essence of Advaita in such a simple manner that we can comprehend intellectually what it is. And later on, this intellectual understanding will lead us into actual understanding, or in other words, ultimate understanding. First principle. Brahman is the only reality. If we use the word real and reality, not relatively, but absolutely, then there is only one thing, without a second. Brahman, you call it as supreme Godhood, supreme consciousness, highest truth, whatever name according to your comfortability of the intellect you can give, you may give. But the Shastra, the Upanishad says, the great masters say, it is Brahman. That is the only reality. Nothing else can have this status of reality. Everything else is not real, absolutely real. If there is anything which can be called as real, it can only be an appearance in this reality. It can only be transactionally real. Or real because it is an appearance. Apparently real or transactionally real, not absolutely real. In dream, many things appear to us, they are apparently real. In the waking world, many things are termed as real, they are transactionally real. Whereas this is absolutely real. All these things of transactional reality are no more in other states of our experience in dream and deep sleep. So that itself will tell us how real these things are. That which is an apparent reality in dream is no more in deep sleep or in the waking world. But the absolute reality is ever existent, ever present, in whom, in which all these different states of experiences, waking, dream and deep sleep, also appear. We think in our dream many things appear, not knowing we are also an appearance to the highest reality. Just as the objects in our dream appear and we think, these are appearances, only after waking up, of course. Similarly, the people who have woken up into that highest truth, they look at us only as appearances in their highest nature. We have only that much of reality, actually. The objects in the dream that appear to us in our dream, they don't believe if we tell them that they are only dream appearances. They don't have reality, they only have apparent reality. So are we. When the people who have awakened to that highest truth, when they tell us, we cannot accept, the ego does not accept, that we can only be appearances. To make this more easy, the masters have given us the fundamental principles, the highest truth, in a simplest manner. That is the grace. We may not be able to apprehend the truth. That is why they descend into our level. That is an avatara. To bring that highest state of reality into our intellectual level, intellectual capacity of understanding, is the real essence of avatar. Not simply manifesting something which we intellectually cannot understand, but that which we can intellectually comprehend. That is the grace. How a mother tries to educate the child in a 1:1 relationship, spending maximum time with the child to educate, to uplift the understanding. How much of compassion is necessary? Parents, how much of compassion they have? Much more than that the Guru has. Because we are children in the level of our understanding. We call children as children because they are not only physically children, but intellectually, mentally also they are children. They have not yet understood what the world is. They are not as polluted as we are. They are very sincere, they are very innocent, they are fresh. There is nothing that is malicious in them. So precious they are, so divine. That's why we love to be with them, because they express only divinity, innocence. So the masters also look at us in that manner. We might have our own pollutions in the mind, but they look at us as children. That is their love and compassion. So they bring down these things. The second principle, Maya, identical with Avidya, is responsible for the appearance of Brahman as Ishvara or God, Jiva or individual soul, Jagat or world. Brahman appears as the whole universe, the creation, the galaxies, the solar systems, the planets, and in those planets the earth. And then on the earth all these species, varieties of beings, in which we are also one of those beings. Who appears as all this? Brahman. And individual souls, Brahman. And also the Ishvara as the ruler of the whole Jagat. Brahman. But what makes this appear? It is Maya. That is, the power of Brahman is connected with Brahman. It cannot be different from Brahman, other than Brahman, his own power. So, the Brahman, the Supreme Consciousness, the highest reality, the Absolute Truth, one without a second, appears as the God, the individual soul, and the world. Seed is first or tree is first? Like that we go on asking people and then fixing them in a state of thinking. Whether the seed first or tree first, both are first. That is how the design has been done. The third principle, the states of being God and of the individual soul or Jiva. The states of being God and the individual soul are illusory. Whereas the essential nature of both God and the individual soul or Jiva is real. The essential nature is real. The conscious element, the element of consciousness in Jiva and Ishvara, in individual soul and God is real. But the states of being God and the individual soul are illusory. Essential nature is real, states are illusory. Fourth principle, world is illusory. Whether we accept or not, whether we are ready for it or not. This is the principle, fourth principle of Advaita. The world is illusory. There was one person who went to a psychiatrist. If you want to call a psychiatrist, I have no objection. So he went and then took his help and said, I am being bothered by monkeys. Then the psychiatrist said, if you are bothered by the monkeys, you have come to the wrong place. You should have consulted a zoo authority, some manager in the zoo, so that they can come and catch the monkeys and then relieve you from the botheration. You imagine now. So then the psychiatrist said, okay. Then he took a picture of cow and showed it to him. Cow. What do you see? He looked at it and said, giggling monkeys. What? Giggling monkeys. The psychiatrist, cow, giggling monkeys. Then he showed him a plain cardboard. Nothing is there in it, plain cardboard. What do you see? He said, giggling monkeys. Then he showed him a photograph of a rainbow, colorful rainbow. What do you see? Giggling monkeys. Then he showed him the Statue of Liberty photograph. What do you see? Big giggling monkey. Then the psychiatrist said, this is too much. You are obsessed with giggling monkeys. You are full of giggling monkeys. Your mind and you are obsessed with it. You know what the patient said? Me? It is you who are showing these giggling monkeys. You are showing me these giggling monkeys. I am not obsessed. You are showing these things. What else I should say when you show these things? Then he understood what it is. To such a person, whatever you say, whatever you show, he will see only giggling monkeys. Because he is obsessed with it. We are obsessed with the thought that we are an independent entity. The ego. We are obsessed with the ego. Everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we think is from the standpoint of ego and as the ego. That is an obsession. Whatever the scriptures say, the masters say, like the psychiatrists, whatever they show, giggling monkeys. I am this limited ego, that's all. And I am connected with these objects, they are mine. To get us out of this entanglement, the beautiful principle is given. The world is illusory. Now hold on to the world. It is illusory. It is as illusory as the giggling monkeys. The fifth principle, the direct knowledge of the true nature of Jiva or individual soul as Brahman is the sole means to liberation. What is the way out of this obsession? Into those frontiers of complete peace and ever-existing, never-ending thrill of joy. There is only one means of liberation, the direct knowledge of the true nature of Jiva as Brahman is the sole means to liberation. In order to make it more easier, they, meaning the masters, tried to simplify this procedure further so that we can understand it much better. The reflection of Brahman in avidya and its product, in ignorance and its product. Avidya, that is identical with Maya. Maya is at the totality level, avidya is at the individual level. Avidya has more of manifestation of willing power, Maya has more of manifestation of projecting power, the power of projection. Vikshepa is more with Maya, avarana, wheeling, is more with avidya. Both are there, but more is like this. The ruler of Maya, Ishvara, utilizes the projecting power of Maya. The wheeling power is absent, so Ishvara is not wheeled by Maya. The veil is not there. So it is said, the reflection of pure consciousness in avidya and its product, which is the psycho-physical organism in which the mind is predominant, is Jiva. The reflection of Brahman in avidya and its product, in which the mind is predominant factor, is the Jiva. It means Brahman itself, when it attains to the state of being a reflected image, pratibimbatva, is a Jiva. When it attains to a state of being a reflected image. And in relation to the reflecting media and the reflected image. Reflecting media is there and the reflected image is there. In relation to the reflecting media and the reflected image, Brahman, though without any distinction, appears to be endowed with an adventitious feature. Adventitious meaning accidentally appearing feature or added feature. It's an added feature or that which appears accidentally. It comes to be endowed with adventitious feature, which is the state of being the original or the bimbatva. One person went to a psychiatrist and said, I always get the thought of committing a suicide. Please help me. I want counseling. And the psychiatrist asked her, you always get it? He said, I always get it. Then he said, in that case, first you make the payment. Then I will start counseling. There was once an interview being conducted for the post of railway inspector. The inspector for railways, especially managing the tracks, railway track inspector. So one candidate appeared for the interview, and then there was one man who was an expert from the railways, senior most officer, topmost level, he was conducting the interview. And then the candidate came and then he started asking questions. The officer was asking questions, interviewing officer. He said, now, imagine, if two trains are heading towards each other on the same track, of course, they are at a distance, but they are heading towards each other on the same track. What you would do as a railway track inspector? They want to assess his way of handling things. Then he said, I would go to the room where all these points are there. I will switch the points by pressing few buttons. I'll switch the points so that the train changes the track and then they pass by comfortably without any harm and collision. Then the interviewing officer said, what if those buttons are not functioning? Then he said, doesn't matter, sir, I will walk down this room and then go down the stairs and then go onto the ground. There is a manual lever. I will pull the manual lever and then change the tracks. Then he said, what if the manual lever is struck by lightning and it is rendered ineffective? Then he said, because you said that there is a distance between them, I will call another station. I will call another station and then tell them to switch the tracks, to switch the points, to change the tracks. What if the lever is not functioning? Telephone. Then he said, I will use my cell phone. What if the cell tower is damaged and it is not sending or receiving signals. And the trains are approaching towards each other. And you tried all this and it is not working. And they are approaching fast. What you will do? And then he said, I will take a red flag and wave. Start waving. Then he says, because of the fog conditions, what if the red flag is not noticed? Then I will take a red lamp and then beam at these trains and walk on the tracks and beam at these trains. What if, because of the weather conditions, the heavy downpour, poor visibility, and that also is not seen? Then he says, I will call my uncle and wife. What? I will call my uncle and wife. He said, why? Because they have never seen a train crash. In this world of illusion, these things are constantly invented one after the another in the mind, created by the mind. What if, what if, what if, what if? The mind goes on in its own projections, one after the another, one after another. And there will be a time where the mind starts believing these projections are real, forgetting that it alone is the cause for all these projections. And then gets affected by these self-created projections. How many times in our relationships we project so many things onto the people, and when they don't live up to those projections and expectations, how we suffer, thinking that they are the cause, but actually we are the cause. We may not accept, but our projections are the cause. Nobody is here in this world to live up to your projections. Everybody is here in this world to satisfy their projections and their desires. If only when the desires meet and match, we feel comfortable and say we are together. When they clash, and then we are away. Coming back to the very important aspect, very beautifully presented by the great masters. Pure consciousness as associated with the characteristic of being the original is God. Bimbatva Vishishta Chaitanya. Vishishta being, meaning characterized by, endowed with, possessed of, having, distinguished or distinct, all these are meanings. Distinct, distinguished, having, endowed with, possessed of, characterized by. Pure consciousness as associated with the characteristic of being an original is God. While the essential nature of God is real, the characteristic or the state of being original, the characteristic of being an original is illusory. Similarly, pure consciousness as associated with the characteristic of being a reflected image is Jiva or the individual soul, Pratibimbatva Vishishta Chaitanya. The God, meaning pure consciousness as associated with the characteristic of being original is Bimbatva Vishishta Chaitanya. Pure consciousness as associated with the characteristic of being a reflected image is Pratibimbatva Vishishta Chaitanya. While the essential nature of Jiva is real, the characteristic of being a reflected image is illusory. That is why the mirrors. You see this mirror? You are able to see this? You can see all your faces, right? It can show only one thing. Whatever is there in front of it, it will reflect. Let us, for the time being, this is pure consciousness. Okay? You can see this? Don't think I'm making any magic show or something like that. This is pure consciousness. Now, suppose this is pure consciousness. Just pure consciousness by itself, in itself, with itself, as itself. There is nothing other than the pure consciousness. But a reflecting medium, and then, can you see what is there in the mirror? Am I able to position this correctly? Can you see? What do you see in the mirror? What you are able to see? Okay. You are able to see that clearly? Who is there in the reflected image? Please tell the name. Okay, Krishna is fine for the time being, for our understanding. Krishna consciousness, right? Pure consciousness. Now, this is pure consciousness. Okay? Then, what is there in the mirror? Reflected image. The pure consciousness as associated with the characteristic of being the reflected image is Jiva. The essential nature of Jiva is pure consciousness. Essential nature. The characteristic of being Jiva is unreal. Is illusory. It is illusory. Now, because of this reflected image, in relation to the reflecting medium and the reflected image, pure consciousness comes to be endowed with an adventitious feature, added feature, accidentally appearing feature of being an original. Why do you call it as original? Because you see something illusory. Because you see an illusory reflected image, a reflected image which is illusory, in reference to that reflecting medium and reflected image, an adventitious feature is happening to pure consciousness. By itself it is not happening. And what is this? Because we look at it and say, oh, this is illusory, reflected image. Reflected image of what? Of the original. So now this becomes the original. This gets that state of being an original. The characteristic of being an original is illusory. The essential nature of the God is real. Essential nature is pure consciousness. The state of being original is illusory. Why it is illusory? Because it is brought into existence or made to appear because of the reflecting media. Maya is the reflecting medium at the totality level. Mind is the reflecting medium at the individual level. The same one. It is identical with, they are not two, but same. This is very important for us to understand. The two characteristics of being original and of being reflected image are illusory. We cannot say anything about it because they are brought or made to appear, brought into existence or made to appear because of the reflecting medium. Otherwise, by itself, it is itself. One without a second. One without a second. Brahman, that's all. It is itself, pure consciousness, absolute truth, highest truth, total, absolute reality. Only because of this, then all these things appear. In the mirror, the reflected image is real or illusory? It is illusory. Because the mirror is only showing it, it is not there in it. The whole creation, even according to these astronomers and scientists, suddenly comes into existence, including the galaxies and solar systems. And they go into analysis, they see only nebulae, nothing but some gas, as the main content of the galaxy, in which there are so many solar systems, in which there are so many planets, in which there is Earth, in which by mistake we are there. We are also there. And when they go deep into analysis of the microparticles, there also they say the microparticles also sometimes behave like a particle and wavicles. A new word is coined, wavicles. They cannot say whether it is a particle or a wave. Sometimes like this, sometimes like that. And that also depends on the observer. As long as the observer is there, the observed is there. Quantum physics. And what can appear like that? It can be only energy. Who made the energy appear like that? God knows, if at all he is there. But sincerely, they honestly say, we don't know. Yet to know. We are trying to know. One day we will discover. We hope and pray that that becomes a reality. Now, owing to the proximity of the face to the mirror, or owing to the proximity of this to the mirror, these two states of being original, of being reflected image, bimbatva and pratibimbatva, are falsely ascribed to this original, are falsely ascribed to this. When the reflecting medium is withdrawn, because it is the power of Brahman, when he withdraws this reflecting medium, what remains is, we don't even call original, because original is a name that comes into existence because of this. It is pure consciousness, one without a second. When the mirror is removed, nothing happens to the pure consciousness. We may say that reflected image is lost. When we think reflected image is real, then we have a condolence meeting for it. The reflected image is lost. When the reflecting media is removed, nothing is lost. Only the state of being a reflected image and the state of being original get removed. What remains always remains ever. Similarly, Maya is this medium in which Brahman appears. For a more classified understanding, it is said, Brahman's reflection in Maya is Ishvara, Brahman's reflection in Avidya and its product, which is mind, is Jiva. Both are same. So more clarity comes when we hold one mirror and see the image of God, the reflected image and characteristic of being original. So when this People ask generally, what happens in dissolution? What happens? The world will come to an end. What happens? When the mirror comes to an end, what happens to these reflected images? Nothing happens. They were appearing, now they will not appear. What was always there will always remain without any addition or deletion. Pure Brahman, just because of the reflecting image, there is no addition, there is no deletion. If there is a pollution to the reflected image, if the mirror is getting polluted, sullied and dirtied, and if there is something that is covering this mirror, making it not clear, then when one looks at one's own face in such an unclear mirror, it looks as if the face is not clear. Face is not clear. It is not visible. The reflected image is not clear. And then we come to believe that face is not clear because there is a dirt and covering on the mirror. Impurity on the mirror will make our face look unclear, dirty. Depending upon the pollution of the mind, we think we are in misery. Attributing the pollution of the mirror to the reflected image, where we think face is dirty, attributing the pollution of the mind to the reflected image, which is Jiva, we think Jiva is suffering. Jiva is in misery. Jiva is in sorrow. Like face is dirty, face is unclear. If there are marks on the mirror, we see marks on our face, that is reflected image. One boy was playing in a place in front of a house. So one insurance agent came there and then asked the boy, "Is your mother in?" He said, "Yes, she is in." And he went there and pressed the doorbell for 5 minutes, again and again, for another 5 minutes, the calling bell, the doorbell. No response. 10 to 15 minutes he tried, no response. Then again he came to this boy who was playing there and then said, "I heard that you are telling me that your mother is in." And there is no response. "Is your mother in?" I heard that you are telling me that your mother is in. He said, "Yes, even now I say, my mother is in. My mother is in home. My mother is inside the home." But there is no response. Then the boy said, "Who said that this is my house?" He did not say. He thought. The insurance agent thought, because he is in front of the house and playing, he thought he belongs to the house and house belongs to him. Just because a reflected image appears in the reflecting medium, we think we belong to the reflected image, reflecting medium belongs to us. Who said this? We thought, in our ignorance. That is why ignorance has to be removed. We thought. That is why when we appear in mind, when the pure consciousness appear in mind, because of lack of proper knowledge, it is thought Jiva is suffering. It is mind that suffers, it is ego that suffers. Never the Jiva, as the reflected image suffers. It is the ego which slowly gains a false status of an independent identity. That is a false status of an independent identity that suffers. It is not that which supports this Jiva, that which illumines this ego, it never suffers. Because of the presence of reflection of the light of consciousness, the mind becomes active, the intellect becomes active, the ego becomes active, The memory becomes active. Buddhi, manas, chitta, ahankara become active. They are all programmed by the Maya. As per their program, they function. As per the program, the ego says, I am, I am, I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. It is programmed. The moment it is switched on, because of the presence of reflection, because of that light, the moment of the light touches, like in a solar panel, the presence of the ray of light, sunlight is enough to make it charge, make it function. Similarly, in a mirror, when the sunlight is taken, that also illumines so many things. A reflected image also has the light in it. Similarly, the mind, the intellect, memory, ego, when they get this reflection of pure consciousness, they become active. And as per their programs, they start functioning. As per our computer program, the computer starts functioning. Whether it is Apple or Windows, whatever it is. It functions as per its own program. And even in that, there are so many programs. It has to be programmed, isn't it? When you take all, you load so many things and then program it. Then only it can function. After we program, it functions as per the program. Like that, this mind, intellect, memory, ego are programmed products of Maya. Created by Maya, produced by Maya and co. Marketed by Maya. Advertised by Maya. True, this is it. One person who was telling to his friend that whenever he gets a seat in train where his back is towards the engine, a seat in train where his back is towards the engine, because there are seats, in rows, and then people sit opposite each other and all in train. Whenever he gets that seat with back to the engine, he becomes rail sick. Rail sick. He will suffer rail sickness, uncomfortable, very disturbed, peaceless, agitated, can't sit properly, can't always move it. Something happens. And then there is something that that is churning inside the stomach, inside the head, everything is rotating, revolving, something like that. Rail sick. Then he was telling his friend, I had traveled yesterday in train. 8 to 9 hours I was rail sick. Even now I can feel the jitters of that. Then the friend said, you could have avoided this situation by talking to the person who is sitting opposite to you. And you could have told him and then exchanged the seats. You could have sat in the opposite seat. You could have spoken to that person, told that person about your problem, and exchanged the seat. This man said, I also wanted to do that, but there was no one sitting opposite to me. For him to switch over the seats, somebody should be there. Nobody is there, then why do you suffer? But that is how it is. Ignorance is like that. When nobody is there, that man suffered. When nobody is really inside the mirror, there also suffering is attributed. It is not there inside. What appears inside the reflecting medium is only a reflected image, which is illusory. But as of now, we are in a state where we feel suffering is real and Brahman is illusory. That's what is our experience right now. At our experiential level, suffering is real, pleasure is real. At our experiential level, these intellectual concepts are unreal. To experience, we have to bring those intellectual concepts into experiential level by constantly focusing upon them. So, this Brahman serves as the original and also serves as the reflected image. Brahman that serves as the original and reflected image is real. But the states of being a reflected image and original are illusory. Illusory also means indeterminable. A beautiful word that is used. Indeterminable means indefinite, uncertain. It is uncertain, whatever is there inside, it is uncertain, indeterminable. That's why they said like that. Continuing further, Adi Shankaracharya ji very beautifully says a thing which is similar to what we have seen just now. It is sloka number 66 in Advaita Anubhuti of Adi Shankara. Mukurasthasya nashena mukhanasho bhavet katham buddhisthabhasa nashena nasho naivatmanah kvachit. Listen. Mukurasthasya nashena mukhanasho bhavet katham buddhisthabhasa nashena nasho naivatmanah kvachit. Nasho naivatmanah kvachit. Mukurasthasya nashena. Mukuraha meaning mirror. Mukurasthasya nashena, when it is destroyed, mukhanasho bhavet katham. The mukha inside, which you are seeing, how can the mukha be lost? How can the face be lost? How can the face be destroyed if the mirror is destroyed? How simple is the message of the Master. Buddhistha bhasanashena. In the intellect, which is functioning as the reflecting medium, the mind, intellect, memory, ego, equipment, together called as Antakarana or internal organ, where the Brahman is getting reflected, which is the psycho-physical product of Avidya. Avidya and its product. The product of Avidya, where predominant factor is the mind, which is internal organ, which is Antakarana, where this Brahman is getting reflected. If this reflecting medium is lost, if this buddhi, the upadhi is lost, if the buddhi or upadhi is lost, buddhistha bhasanashena, the reflected image will not be there. Nasho naivatmanah kvachit. Is the Atman lost? If the reflecting media is lost, the reflected image is not there, is the Atman lost? Atman is not lost. When mind and intellect, which are the reflecting media, are lost, reflected image is no more there. But Atman or Brahman is not lost. When somebody says you have to go beyond mind, and what will happen if there is no mind? What will happen to your face if there is no mirror? Your face is face. Whether it is mirror. Oh, I may not look beautiful to others. You still look beautiful because you are you. So there is no loss actually happening. But if we don't know where our face is, then we get into the problem. If we don't know what we should know, then we get into the problem. Once I have heard that a philosophical astrologer is philosophical, and a detective agent were friends. And both of them went into the woods, the forest, for a break from their daily routine. They wanted to have a break, so they went into the woods, the forest, for camping. Both of them only went for camping. So, Afterwards, they went here and there, they chased some wild animals, then they photographed some, and they saw a few from a distance, and they enjoyed, had fun. So much up and down hill, and then moving here, moving there into the bushy trees and all that. They saw so many things, hearing the chirping of the bird. Oh, they had a great time. And in the evening, they felt tired and exhausted. So they laid their tent, and then afterwards they cooked some food and they carried certain packets and they ate all of them. And then they went to sleep. And there was silence. They could hear every single sound that even the insects make. Any sound they were hearing. Slowly they slipped into the sleep. Exactly midnight. 30 minutes past midnight. In the forest. Total darkness. Don't think I'm telling some horror story, you know. Suddenly the detective agent woke up. And then he woke up the astrologer, philosophical astrologer. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Then he woke up. Then he said, look up and tell me, what do you see? He looked up and then said, see. Astronomically, so many stars and stars and stars and stars. I don't get to see this many stars in the city because of that city lights and all. Now we are in the forest, so many stars. And I am aware of the knowledge that we also are like a star. The earth is like a star. And we are so small, and that is so big, the universe is. Theologically, I feel God is great who has created all these stars, and we are so small. Astronomically, many stars, and we are also on one star like Earth. Theologically, God is great. Astrologically, looking at these configurations, I can understand that Saturn is in Leo, Simha Rasi, and the Jupiter is now in Dhanus Rasi, Sagittarius. And started telling, astrologically. Horologically, because of the position of the stars and the moon, horologically, it is exactly nearing to 1 a.m. Correct. 1:30 he woke up and he observed all this. And he said, meteorologically, tomorrow will be a bright day, full of sun. And then he looked at the detective agent. That man said, you fool! Somebody stole our tent. The detective agent asked him to look up to see that. He is not seeing what is actually lost. Setting that aside, he is seeing so many things. Theologically, astronomically, astrologically, meteorologically, horologically. No logic only. Illogically. He is seeing all that. So much is there. Good, see. Actual thing is lost, that you are not seeing. There is knowledge that is lost of our true nature. That we are not seeing. Oh, so much is there in the universe. So this is there, that is there, that is there, that is there. All that is there because of ignorance. But that we are not seeing. Rest all we are seeing. That is where the great masters come to tell us what exactly is not there and what exactly is there. What is not there is seen and perceived as being there, and what is there is not at all being understood as being there. That's where it is said. Isha jivadivad bhati yadhaikamapi tamrakam ekopyatma tadhaivayam isha jivadivan mrusha isha jivadivat bhati yadhaikamapi tamrakam ekopyatma tadhaivayam isha jivadivan mrusha isha jivadivan mrusha. Sloka number 68 of Advaita Anubhuti by Bhagavan Sri Adi Shankaracharya Ji. Just as a piece of copper, tamrakam, copper, appears as Ishvara, as Jiva, as animals. Out of copper they made certain images. Copper images, idols. The same copper, a piece of copper. When you compare it to the totality of copper available in the world, it's a piece of copper only. That piece of copper becomes Ishvara, Jiva, animals and utensils. Same copper becomes utensils also. Same copper you can make God also. Same copper you can make human being praying to God also. Same copper you can make Nandi also, an animal in front of the God also. Same copper you can make the Uddarini and then the Panchapatra and then the plate where you offer Naivedyam also, utensil also. Copper or silver or gold, whatever it is, depending upon your capacity. So same thing becomes all of this. Similarly, one consciousness, one Atman, has become all of these things in this creation. God also, Jiva also, animals also, all beings also, and even the utensils also, even all the elements also, everything in this world is nothing but one Atman has become all this. Meaning, one Atman falsely appears due to the ignorance, due to the error as all this, appears as Jiva, Ishvara and various other forms. When all these various forms are taken out of their appearance as forms, is copper lost? Is there anything lost actually? They are images of copper. Nothing happens to the copper. Similarly, the whole creation, which is one Atman appearing as all these forms, if all these forms, the whole creation disappears. Nothing happens to the Atman. If whole creation disappears, if nothing happens to the Atman, if one form disappears, why we bother? One thought form disappears. It is a thought form that I am being respected till yesterday. Today that fellow did not respect me. One thought form lost. Physical form lost. Nothing happens to the Atman. Thought form lost. Expectations dashed. Hopes smashed. Desires crashed. Feelings dashed. What is lost? Nothing is lost. If you identify yourself, if you become aware of yourself, if you remember yourself, if you understand yourself as the Atman, even while the whole show is going on, you know who you are, you know what you are. Nothing happens. Everything happens only in ignorance. Like great masters say, in reality nothing ever happens. If anything ever happens, it happens in ignorance. happenings are connected to ignorance and not to absolute reality. That is why the masters like Gurudev and Taponji Maharaj, even to their body when something happens, nothing happens. That is why Gurudev can say, Marne mein maja hai. There is joy in dying. That is why Taponji Maharaj could just take it easy. Let it go, it wants to go. Because they know what they are. They know where their face is. They know where the original nature is. If the images are lost, they are not bothered. Because they know that they can never be lost. Everything appears and gets lost only in them as Atman. That is what we have to understand. And these masters do their best in trying to make us understand. Next time when you look at the mirror, please remember this. If every time you look at the mirror, if you remember this, slowly, 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 you will start seeing the truth behind these appearances. It is the intellectual conviction and acceptance completely that the world is illusory and what is real is your true nature. Your true nature is real. Nobody said your true nature is illusory. Your true nature, you as the consciousness are real. There is element of reality in you, truth in you. The appearance only is unreal, is illusory. Don't think everything is illusory. You are real. You as Atman are real. As a reflected image is unreal. States are unreal, illusory. May we, by their grace, move on to next day, tomorrow, to understand something more. How we come down into the level of bondage and how we can come out. Probably that may be the central theme for tomorrow. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet, asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrutyorma amrutangamaya. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.